Hi, welcome back. Glad you're stopping by. I hope that we can keep doing this with you. It's Friday here where I am right now recording this, and reminds me of a Friday about 9 years ago when Ann and I got off an airplane and were able to go to Jerusalem and stand on the Mount of Olives, look into the darkness or the dusk, and see the outline of the lights of the city of Jerusalem for the first time in our lives. Off to the right was the Garden of Gethsemane. We could see the outlines of the trees, the olive trees down there. And over our shoulder to the back, on the other side of the hill, would have been the town of Bethany. So we were right in the middle of where things were happening about 2,000 years ago. It would have been the Easter season, and we would have been viewing one of the most remarkable, amazing sights to behold in the history of the world. It was a time of great joy because Jesus was about to come to town. The time spent with Lazarus was taking place just before now, and Jesus had performed this miraculous miracle which had not only defied logic but scared the daylights out of the religious leaders of the day. In fact, it scared them so much that they put a plan in the place. If you look at the end of John chapter 11, you'll find these words. I'm going to begin in verse 45, and I'd like you to take note of them and think about them as we go through. Please listen. Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what he did, believed in him. This is Mary in the Lazarus story. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them that what Jesus had done. So the chief priests of the Pharisees gathered the council and said, "What are we to do? For this man performs many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him. And the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation." But one of them, Caiaphas, who was the high priest that year, said to them, "You know nothing at all, for you do not, nor do you understand that it is better for you that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish." He did not say this of his own accord, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation, and not only the nation only, but also to gather into one the children of God who are scattered abroad. So from that day on, they made plans to put him to death. Jesus therefore no longer walked openly among the Jews, but went from there to the region near the wilderness, to a town called Ephraim, and there he stayed with the disciples. Now the Passover of the Jews was at hand, and many went up from the country to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. They were looking for Jesus and saying to one another as they stood in the temple, "What do you think? That he will not come to the feast at all?" Now the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that if anyone knew where he was, he should let him know so they might arrest him. Jesus was wanted. They may not have had posters and reward signs posted everywhere, but truly everyone knew that Jesus was on the outs with the religious authorities of the day. Jesus, who had just performed this incredible miracle and raised Lazarus from the dead after he was dead and had begun to decompose, and in the sight of many people had brought belief from unbelievers and had brought to the religious order much fear and consternation. Fear for the authority of their position, fear for the gaining of their wealth, and fear that the Romans would somehow intervene and remove everything that was Jewish about the city of Jerusalem, which incidentally they did some 40 years or so later. This was a troubled time, and Jesus had gone into, I guess you might say, hiding. He was off with his disciples in Ephraim. Not sure exactly where that is, but it's somewhere north of Jerusalem, probably in the land and territory which had been given to Ephraim. And here he was with his disciples, spending the last hours, days with them. Soon he would return to Jerusalem in triumphal entry. And so I'd like you to just sort of stand with me on the hillside of the Mount of Olives just for a moment and look into the scene and remember that there are thousands of everyday people milling around doing everyday things and not realizing that in just a few days, coming over the hill on the back of a donkey will be the one who will be their Redeemer, the one who lives and will ever live. He would spend a week in the city of Jerusalem, and then after that be taken to his death, and eventually, a few short days later, be resurrected. I'm glad that as I sit here this morning, I can process this story in its entirety, because to process it on a minute-by-minute basis would have probably been something that would have been too hard to bear. To stand with Mary at the cross and watch Jesus suffer and die, not really totally understanding that in just a few days he would be risen again. To watch the agony and the shame that he endured would have been probably more than most of us could bear. So we tell the story because we want others to know about who this man was, who this God-man was that came into our world with one purpose and one purpose alone: to redeem lost men, even the ones who despised him. They were out for his blood. And so as you stand with me on the hillside and as you watch the procession begin to form, you can hear almost the timpani in the background beginning to beat as the drum rolls and as the anticipation builds for the entrance of the King. Sunday, we celebrate Palm Sunday virtually. And on that day, we will celebrate the coming of the King to the city of Jerusalem, knowing, as we do, that in a few short days, he would be rotting in a gravesite, and knowing in a few short days after that, he'd be risen. Probably Palm Sunday is one of the more depressing Sundays because we know what's ahead. But Easter Sunday is the one that we all look forward to because it announces the coming of our risen Savior to life so that we too may have life. I hope as you go out throughout your life these next few days and into the Passion Week that you will take time every day just to spend a few moments thinking about it, thinking about what Christ has done for us, thinking about this great King who humbled himself, as Philippians chapter 2 says, even to the death on a cross. Why? So that he could redeem us in the story that is filled with darkness and sadness, because we know of this incredible death, this ignominious death that Christ would die. There is joy because there is hope. You and I have hope because of Easter. Hey, listen, take some time this week. Think about it. This is Pastor Bill. We'll see you soon. May God bless you throughout the remainder of this day.